mental health issues will be more prevalent in the world. People becoming sicker, more lonely. I agree with that partially. Judging people has its purpose. I made a video on apologizing where I explained the transitioning between being emotional and impulsive as a person into becoming highly intellectual. And I will probably do a separate video explaining those small nuances where you can feel as you develop, you become more rational and understanding, and with that becoming more compassionate and empathic. And that leads me to the video that I have for you today on empathy. We have invited our beloved Rabbi Twersky to tell us a couple of words about empathy and how we confuse that word with sympathy. There's a distinct difference between those two. So let's go ahead and see what he has to say.
Empathy is a term which has to be understood because some people feel they can confuse between empathy and sympathy. Feeling for somebody else does not mean justifying the other person. But empathy means being able to see things from the other person's perspective, right?
I want to chime in here. In order to gain that kind of an ability to see through the eyes of another person, you have to yourself experience those situations. I can sit all day long and tell you how to build muscle, but if you haven't tried it out yourself, if you haven't gave it a shot and worked out for a half a year, you won't understand what I really mean.
And my mother used to refer to this as the holy al-tadin. Al-tadin is the phrase in the Ethics of the Fathers, do not judge another person till you've been in his place. My mother always used to say that's the holy al-tadin. No, never judge another person because you don't know what the person is going through.
I agree with that partially. I know what he means. He implies that you have to understand that people go through different phases in life and may experience and process things in a totally different way, which explains why they're at the place they are at. But on the other hand, judging people has its purpose, and I've explained it in this video. I'm not saying that you have to be judgmental and write people off from the first gate. What I'm saying is that you have to be attuned with life and your own experiences. Become self-aware, in other words, and when you are that, when you're aware, your judging abilities will help you navigate through life more effectively.
There's an interesting story that my father used to tell about one of our great uncles who was a Hasidic Rebbe, and his followers, his Hasidim, used to come in and tell him their problems. And so one morning he was sitting and receiving all of his supplicants, and later on his aide noticed that his clothes were drenched with perspiration. And he said to him, "Why were you sweating so profusely? You weren't exerting yourself." He says, "I wasn't exerting myself?" He says, "Do you realize when somebody comes and tells me a problem, in order for me to help him, I have to feel that problem."
You see, the first guy asking that question, why you are exuding yourself, you haven't done anything significant. That's kind of a judgment that you shouldn't have. You never know what problem the other person has. Maybe they have some kind of an issue with their body and they uncontrollably sweat all the time. And going back to his point where he said that in order to empathize, understand the person that I'm helping, I have to put myself in their shoes. I have to understand the path they have walked, the life they have experienced. If you're not engaged, if you're not empathizing, your advice, your reaching out won't feel genuine. And people are very good in sensing your authenticity or the lack of.
I have to take off my clothes and put on his clothes. Oh, now I feel his problem. But then I can't help him because I'm too subjective. So in order to become objective again, I have to take off his clothes and put my clothes on again. I've been sitting here all morning putting on my clothes, taking off my clothes, putting on my clothes, taking off my clothes. You say I haven't been exerting myself?
That was a little bit X-rated, but I get the joke. This is kind of exemplifying why people lose connection in this internet era. Although we're connected 24/7 and we have tons and tons acquaintances, friends, on our social media applications. There's a lack of genuineness within that communication system because we are not empathizing, we are not connecting on a deeper level. We human beings have evolved to be social creatures, which I have explained many times. We're social creatures not just for the sake of it. There's an innate biological evolutionary purpose to our social nature. That's how we conquered the world. And those traits have evolved with us and been passed on to this day. Although we don't need people in the same manner as we did back in the day, we still crave that deep connection, that empathy.
Empathy means being able to put on somebody else's clothes. And it's important in every relationship. It's important between parents and children. Right? Parents operate with an adult mind, right? Have no way of knowing what does the child feel like. Right? And to be able to empathize with the child, right, is extremely important in parenting.
This point is so profound. I see all the time children traveling with their parents on the public transportation, and the parents always try to hinder their development, shushing them, not letting them to play, forbidding this, forbidding that, don't do this, don't do that, don't be loud. Yes, I get it, if you're traveling in the morning and there are a lot of sleepy and tired people, but that's the whole point of it. Development of a civilization means neglecting of the individual. And as we march on into the future, mental health issues will be more prevalent in the world. People becoming sicker, more lonely, estranged and distant from each other, and the only cure is to realize their own humanity and transform the direction that we're going. And remember, you can only help others if you have helped yourself first. Hossein, out.